timandsteveshownh. Music licensing reimagined.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
Steve, how are you?
Doing well, Tim. How are you?
Not too bad. Trying to reset up everything this morning because I took the camera over the weekend. I was going to go to the Select Boards meeting tonight, and then decided, hey, let's do a show, and which isn't a huge deal. It's not like it's.
Well, when you took the camera on Friday, I was like, oh, we must not be doing a show Monday morning.
And then yesterday I messaged you last night, hey, want to do a show? Sorry, I got to get some more of that like fructose corn syrup in me.
We really got to do something. We got to make a change, Tim. I really need to just go through the pantry, take all the processed foods, and just toss them, or just toss them.
You gotta get an ice machine. I love ice water, cold ice water. I had an ice machine, then it got ants in it. Isn't that weird? Like the little ones. And we use this thing constantly, so and we're not dirty people. It's not like the house is dirty. And there were the little ones, not like, you get ants. Every house will get ants. There's a certain time of year.
It's funny that you say that because when y'all were moving, I made the joke like, that cabinet hasn't been that clean since y'all moved in, and I was just trying to give my wife credit, and then Andrea took offense. Was like, I've cleaned it. I was like, no, I was trying to get points with my wife, and I insulted you just because like Nikki had cleaned, like she had spent some time, whatever. I was just giving my wife props, but I guess it came at the expense or the implication that. Anyway, I still feel guilty about that, and that was what, November or October?
Your joke just went wrong.
Yeah, it went wrong, and I was like, man, I did not mean to offend anyone with that. I was just trying to get credit with my wife for helping out and being patient and kind. But, yeah, so I saw how it could be taken like that, but just as an aside note, as you're talking about because because she was cleaning right underneath where the ice thing was, like underneath the sink, whatever, like the messy place where you keep all your cleaning supplies was
under your sink. Yeah.
Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest because the way Andrea snapped at me, I was like, I was just trying to get some credit with my wife for acknowledging that she's over here helping. Anyway,
didn't go so well.
No, it did not. I had to throw that since you brought up the ice maker, and I can still see the cabinet there where it sat.
That thing was pretty decent too. I've had two different ones. One it was supposed to every 7 minutes it makes ice, and okay. Yeah, but no, this thing was actually really good. And then I actually did, and I think it's in the storage unit. I have a commercial one that I bought that I need to hook up because, like I said, especially during the summer stuff, but ice is a huge thing in my house. And it was also Andrea's iron's been low. She has some issue where she has to get iron infusions, and it's started out I was like, hey, just take iron supplements, but it's something with her stomach that rejects the iron or something. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, she has to do it. But the point I'm trying to make is, I don't know if it's just her or other people. I suppose other people do this too. But if you have if you're anemic, you have the iron issue, you are drawn to chew ice. So Andrew's chew ice all the time. It was this habit. She would just eat ice sitting there. And, whatever. I got used to it. At first it was it's kind of irritating. And she was really I'm going to chew ice right now. So, whatever. If you want to, whatever, So she's thoughtful about it. But then since she's got an iron infusion, she hasn't really chewed ice. So I guess maybe we go through less ice now because of that. But we bought a commercial one because think about it. You go get a bag of ice at the store.
It's expensive for
something
water.
That's going to exactly. So I picked one up. I just never had a chance to hook it up, which I'm thankful now because now we're in the new place, and I would rather than having to hook a used thing up, I'd have something new. But she said to me yesterday, I was like, well, I said I was going to put the light up in the bedroom, and it just didn't happen because we went to Concord yesterday, and so I said I'll try to start doing more because I was going crazy nonstop working at the house, and then since vacation, it's been
The reverse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing obviously way more with the show, and so I'm doing stuff and I'm busy, but I haven't really done anything at the house. And she's like, "Oh, I just asked if you could finish like the cabinets so she can have more room." And I was like, "All right." So this week, it's supposed to be nice all week, so I'll work on trying to make some more cabinets. And it's just tough because you kind of like, once you fall out of the rhythm and you start to focus on something else.
Yeah, it's like going on a diet and eating healthy.
Or you go to the
come
gym, then you stop, and then it just goes to hell. It's kind of like that.
If you miss one day, and then it's easier to say, I'll go to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah, do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll start eating healthy tomorrow. His is over there on the counter for everybody out there.
I drank half of a poison bottle of, or a cup of whatever.
Of course, I'm totally at fault because I did go to buy it this morning. It was so weird. I pull in, I'm about to get up to the window, and the lady in front of me in the SUV, like from Mass, like stops. So I stop, and I have the Mini Cooper, which is a standard. And then I go to back up a little bit. And, she gets out to walk over the window, and I actually hit forward. So I went forward just a smidge. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I'm gonna back up so you could get there." And they forgot to give her a drink or whatever. And then the lady at the counter was like, "You could have just came in," which
that's what we always do.
That's what we
pull
usually
over to the side and just walk in.
But I didn't care. It didn't bother me. Whatever. But
it was windy and cold yesterday too, so I definitely would have went inside instead of standing out.
That was this morning.
Well, but yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yesterday was
bitter cold.
It's cold this morning, but it's not windy, so it's not. It actually feels.
This is the first time that I was able to walk on top of the ice or the snow.
Yeah.
Up until yesterday, I would just go all the way down to the ground.
It's crazy the amount of water I have running down my barn, which is great because the more it runs, the better, because that means it's melting. That means it's going to start to dry out, like that whole thing. And because me and Olivia went in the barn and completely cleaned the barn and the pens and everything on Saturday, and I have this almost it's like a hole out back of just where the ground normally is, but then there's this water, and so luckily it is melting and disappearing. But
you have to put a pipe in or something there.
Yeah, it just you get halfway in a project or whatever, and then I had to work on the house, and because I want to put concrete out behind the barn, and there's
we started that.
Yeah, we started all these things, and then but then I'm like, all right, well, I need a place to live, so I got a lot of projects for this summer, and we're gonna move that garden behind the garage, so that will be a huge project come spring, because that will be a big priority of, okay, I need to get this done so I can get the garden in. I think I'm going to put some stone in there first and then put the loam on top of it. Or probably some stone, some sand and loam or something like that, because I can't afford to put, a foot of loam in there, but just so, because it can be wet in there. It's just a drainage thing. It's not wet, it's a wet area. It's very, there's big rocks and stuff in there and crappy soil, which I'm going to add to the top. But I was thinking, if I put some stone under it, it might help so it doesn't get too wet. But then it could, who knows, maybe it'll get too dry and I'm constantly fighting the battle of watering. I don't know.
I'm not a fluid
probably could see
dynamics engineer type of guy. I can help you dig a French drain.
Once it dries up, I guess I'll figure it out. Because right now there's still just stupid amount of snow out there. Because I have the backyard's the next thing to get done, right? And
it was melting fast on Saturday.
It was great.
I thought it was all going to be off the roof. You could just hear it pouring. You could see it.
Yeah.
Melting all over the road, sidewalk, or driveway.
The top part of my driveway is pretty much clear now, which is awesome. And a lot melted. Some melted yesterday too. Oh, it was running. Doesn't mean necessarily melted. Just it's like I said, it's wet behind the barn. So supposedly this week's in the 50s all week. So let's hope. Fingers crossed. Today's the first day of spring. Hopefully we're.
I need to finish getting that fence up. I went yesterday. Found some more seeds to try out.
Nice. I
need to finish the fence though.
It was $65 worth of seeds or something from Runnings the other day.
Nice.
So
now you just got to grow $65 worth of groceries and get your money back.
Oh, so remind me, just in the case that I forget, I took those seeds, put them in a bag, and I stuck them in the top drawer of the bureau that's in our bedroom. Yeah. Our bedroom, as in me and Andrea, not me and you, for the record. Because that's happened before. Hey, put these away. I don't want anyone to take them, throw them away. Something happened, and then I'll be like, "Where'd they go?"
Kind of like
go buy them all again.
I moved the nut and the control arm for my tractor, so I removed the one that had broken off, got that nut off, went to install the new one, and of course I don't know where I put it.
Oops.
But I took it out of the kitchen because we had John Paul and his family coming, and so I was like, oh, let me put this with my work supplies. So maybe they're with the seeds. Because I have the seeds in the kitchen, because I had them all spread out by category and to help me design the garden. And then Nikki had made enough comments about the seeds being out and everything, so I put them up before John Paul came. So I'm hoping I put them with the seeds.
There was one package of like giant pumpkin or something like that, because we keep talking about that. We want to have just see how big of a pumpkin we can grow.
That you definitely need to put in the compost pile from the barns.
Yeah,
the barn and the chicken.
At least a couple seeds in that thing, and
at least a couple. Just try it.
And I don't care. I'm not going to eat this thing. I just want to see how big I can make it.
Right. That's not.
I mean, I'm not going to put all these chemicals in it because.
Well, no, that's what. But if you put it in there, you shouldn't have to add anything because it'll stay warm and hot and.
Yeah.
Moist, deep enough down, probably. Because, it's a big pile that you have out there.
Yeah.
Another year or so, that'll be perfect. You probably charge me for it.
I have a bigger pile behind a barn it's mostly sawdust, or shavings, because, we clean the pens, and it's tough because the way my barn's kind of, my barn's not small for the amount of animals I really have, but, you really have to go in there, scoop the poop out. You probably have to do it a couple times a day, which is what most farms do. But we end up changing all the shavings out. But it's still compost. The shavings are going to break down the same way. And luckily, way less hay loss now. And it used to be a stupid amount of hay because I'd feed them in the pen, they'd waste it, step on it. Now I feed the hay out of the pen so that the waste is way less than it used to be. It's funny, just little things trying to figure out. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Turbo is my pig. I think she's pregnant. She looks now her front teats kind of look fit. I'm really hoping, because with having to put Mac down, and we believe she was going to be pregnant because she was with him and we saw them mate and whatever. I'm hoping, because I'm really hoping that if she is and has hopefully a bunch of piglets, that I'll have a male in there that I can keep, which would be an offspring of Mac, because he was such a good pig. That was a hard thing. He was more of a pet. He really was. He was gentle. He was. He's
greet you,
chill. And a lot of boars are not that way. They're more aggressive. He was so chill. So
where'd you get him from?
I got him from actually a guy in Newport, David. I don't remember his last name, but he has an apple farm, a place right up on Unity Springs Road towards the end before you get to Unity. But and he was actually down at someone else's house in Allstead, down there breeding some of this guy's sows, and then I bought him and just picked him up from down there. And he was just super good, just so chill, really, really good pig. He just got sick. I don't know what happened to him. He just completely stopped eating. He was laying down in the barn. You could just tell he was suffering. And I'm like, you can't have this. I'm not going to let an animal suffer. And
digging that in me as my dog suffered for about 2.5, 3 days, if not 2 weeks.
No, if your dog was like this, you would totally you would have done what you had to do. But I think as soon as we got the other goat, the male goat, he was totally mounting Lola, our female goat, and I'm pretty positive she's pregnant, because they get big in the winter.
Yeah, I remember last year. I was like, oh my god,
it's weird. It's almost like overnight. And then you'll go down in the springtime. And it's
it was overnight last year.
Yeah, the goat's
half her size. Yeah. It was weird.
So,
because I was like, Tim, man, you need to start locking that goat up, man. She is eating something from somewhere.
No,
and then, like you said, I came over a week later, and I'm like, wait, what happened to her?
The way they store their
energy, their fat,
something, yeah. So Felipe is kind of skinny down a little more. Not fully, but he's So then I kind of felt the sides of Lola yesterday, and it feels hard. So I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. And I think goats, I believe it's a 5-month cycle, where pigs by rule is usually 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. So I'm really, really hoping then we'll have a baby goat, which will be awesome. and they can have twins too. Usually I think it's one, but yeah, so I'm excited about that. And so maybe we'll have piglets and a baby goat. Then I've got some animals to put in the freezer too, but that's just the cycle of life.
Yeah, you got some chickens ordered already?
I did. I went on this. All right, figure this out, okay? So in the past, I've gotten them either from like Runnings or Tractor Supply. I've had okay luck with some of them. However, last year I got 24 chickens. I don't remember which place it was. One of them, okay? And I can't remember which one. Every one of those chickens died. Every single one of them. And I had got 6 turkeys, I think, last year. Every one of those died. And then, like, the time before that, I got 12 turkeys, and only 3 of them survived to actually become turkeys that you could eat. And then last year I got 12, like, 17 or 16-week hens from Lebanon Feed and Supply, and I still have 5 of those, unfortunately. Something, got in the pen. We talked about that over this fall or whatever when something got in and got them. But so I need more chickens. I want more chickens for laying eggs. But I also ordered meat birds too. So I just ordered them from this company. They'll mail them, which is the same thing that like Runnings and they're all mailed in. So it's not. I'm just cutting out them and getting it direct. But the challenge to get females was insane. Like, you could get males, which I don't want because males aren't going to lay eggs. And I finally found, I got 15 of one bird that's an egg layer. I was able to get females. And then I think they're being shipped on the 10th of April. And one other female that was, I don't know what breed. I'm going to have quite the variety of different birds, which is fine. And then I ordered 15 extra large Cornish game hens, which are meat birds, which I'll obviously have them separate from the other ones. But what the hell is going on? Like, you can't get females? And how can you say that? Because they book out, like, you can see every week all summer, like, the list is this way. And it'll say, after female, male, and then straight run, which is they don't even check them, they just send them. And they'll tell the availability. But the male said availability, some of it was limited, but a lot of it was like, yeah, I'll have this amount of male. How do you know when 2 months from now you're going to have X amount of males? You don't know until the chicken hatches what the chicken is. It's just weird. So, and we've talked about this past summer with all the chicken things, one of the biggest chicken places in the third biggest, which is in Connecticut, Burns.
Right.
And then this bird, like all this stuff, right? So I'm like, oh, is this like some game they're going to play now? Like all of a sudden you can't get chickens? Like...
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past. I mean, at this point in time, Tim, with
like for real. So
the amount of things that we're being hit with, one to distract us from the other, one to distract us from another. There's so much stuff going on.
One of the birds I ordered, I said, all right, I'll take a male because I do want another rooster because the goal is to have fertilized eggs that I can then incubate myself and then hatch. Right. And because I mean, obviously, yeah, if you get 24 birds, a couple are going to die. That's why there's so many of them. That's why they lay an egg every day. Like that's normal. But to lose every single one of them, and I've had chickens before. It's not like
you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, I did something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I won't get anything from Lebanon Feed Supply anymore because when you get something from him, he berates you and treats you like you're the lowest of the low because you don't buy your food from him, and he doesn't make all kinds of money on chickens. Well, I don't care. That's not my freaking problem. Like, I buy my stuff at La Valley's, which is local to me. You're in Lebanon, and you're a douchebag. So I decided I won't even buy my chickens there, because that just don't like. Can you imagine? Like,
no,
I just can't. Like, you're a business. Like, hey, how about you try to sell these people? Like, hey, I can match prices, like whatever.
Or you bought X amount of birds, you get 15% off for the next 2 months,
right,
on our feed, right? So, but then they hook you with a kindness, and then after 2 months, then you're paying $1 or $2 more than what you would pay at La Valley. But
if they're gonna,
it's a good experience. Like I've always tried to tell everybody, like I'll pay more if it's less of a hassle, if I'm treated nice. Like, saving money is great, but I'm not going to do it at the cost of my own self-respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, this dude's just a jerk and expects you to. And it's like, okay, so say you're $1 cheaper for a bag, and I get 20 bags, and that's $20. I'm going to use that in gas and my time to drive to Lebanon. Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense.
Well,
Like,
you're acting like you definitely wouldn't do that if you get a tone. Like, oh, how many bags of food can I mark you down for? Oh, I don't need food. And then they start treating you like garbage. I mean, I guess the flip side you could have been was like, well, how about I just don't buy any chickens, dude? Which now that you have, right? That's
exactly.
Where you're at. That's the point that you're at now, is because it's all about just being kind, man. That's what I always tell people. It's about treating people with dignity and respect.
Yeah. Then I'm on that website.
Especially if you own a business. Like, that's like, you would think that would be rule number one. It used to be customer's always right. No, I get it. You have some people that have these high expectations that they're never, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be happy. So you have to find a way to deal with that. But, I mean, shoot. Like, if I'm buying 20 birds and you're going to berate me, I guess I won't be coming back for repeat business.
Yeah, I'm just not going to buy it. Like, I don't know. Stupid.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yesterday we went to Concord to go to Dick's because softball starts today and Lydia doesn't have a mitt. I don't know. She had a mitt. Amelia's girlfriend borrowed it. So it was in Amelia's room. Then the dog, I don't know. One of these stupid things. So, we have to go buy another mitt.
How shameful that you went to Dick's for that.
Okay, here's the thing. There's no other place to go. Like, okay, Olympia Sports. So they don't have one in Claremont anymore. I believe I don't think it's there. So I'd have to try to find that. And you're right, I don't like Dick's, but there used to be this really nice place in Manchester next to the Verizon, but it went out of business.
I was going to ask, because that's why
I would go there.
Because I'm pretty sure 5 years ago when we moved here, like, we went there to look for soccer stuff or something. Like, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, when I was there, like, I need to get shoes because I don't know. I have some sneakers somewhere that, I mean, they're pretty used and worn, whatever. So, and I don't buy shoes very often, and I've been wearing my Hey Dudes like a lot, but it's not something I can really go like coaching and doing that thing. So, I don't know. Like, I have like chest pain when I'm in the store, like, that anxiety kind of thing, because I hate buying shoes in general, and I won't buy Nikes because they're a bunch of communists and little kids make their shoes, and I won't. And it's tough because the selection is, look at all the Nikes. And then I saw some Adidas ones. I was like, those are kind of nice, but I was like, $189.
Well,
nope.
I was about to say, well, you should take Adidas off your list.
They're all.
They're all basically off the list. You need to go buy some starters from Walmart or something.
So I bought. They're called Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks are good.
I bought some of those.
Those are good for your feet.
Yeah, allegedly.
I wear Saucony or Saucony, whatever you want to call it, but Nikki has always been at Brooks, and then even foot doctors have told me Brooks. But for me, the way I pronate or supernate, whichever one I do, I think I pronate. I need the Saucony.
Problem is, every time I switch shoes, it seems to screw up it messes with me, and
that's why I stick to the one brand, Saucony.
Yeah, I had some that I used for a while that like no break-in period in, and they're just really nice. I don't know what they were. They were a weird name, but they didn't have any of those there, and like I don't know. Then Amelia gets cleats, and so Andrew's like, spend $100, anything that you want. If they're more than that, you're paying the difference. And he did, buy $140 cleats, and I'm like, although I will say this year we're able to get cleats. Last year we were not. They didn't have any. They were completely, because of COVID and all that, like nothing. This year they had a huge amount of them, but
I just find that interesting.
Crazy.
$140 for a pair of cleats. I think Zeta soccer cleats were like over $100, but it was like these have to last you the next 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, because we bought her some freshman year and maybe junior year, but it was like 2 years. So keep them clean, let them dry out in the sun.
Yeah,
take good care of them because that's expensive.
Yeah, and every time there's sport comes up, it's like, oh, I need this, I need that, and I mean, it's not as expensive now because there's only 2 of them, but when there was 4 of them, it's like, we're not doing this. We're not buying cleats every year. We're not, Lydia got a batter's glove yesterday, which is like $12. I mean, I was like, oh, I don't have one. I'm like, I've seen you with batter's gloves like before, and like, no.
Wear a golf glove, Emilio. Same thing.
We just
Take the button off of it.
$140 was just spent on cleats. I mean, if you want a batter's glove, you can go buy one. I don't know. Kids will never, I'm glad they play sports, though. It's good for them. It's good exercise. It's good, team building and all of it. But sometimes it's like, how much do you freaking think? Like, it's just crazy. Well, whatever. All right, so we got, as of whatever time it is now, 9:19, we had 189 views on our show, which is the most we've had ever, besides, like the little robot BS thing that was a waste of money. But
the Chinese bots were watching us?
Yeah. So I put the show up, obviously, on Friday, and then Saturday I was like, huh. Now that's more gas to this fire. So I posted the letter that I had that we talked about on the show, and I showed on the show, and got a lot of response out of that. And I had someone that I know pretty well that I agree with on most things messaged me privately, which is fine, and talked for quite a while. And perspectives like there's more to the story. There's more to the story, and there could be. And I said,
there probably is.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's.
Like we always say, there's always 3 sides.
Yeah. So what I did is I'd asked, well, who do you know who makes the decision on that job? Who made the decision? Because someone had to make the decision, and was the decision. So how much impact did that letter have? That's my question, right? And he's like, I have no clue who made the decision. So this morning, the person that the letter was emailed to, I emailed him and said, hey, this is who I am. I'd like to know how much of a bearing that letter had on. So if you tell me that it had 0 bearing on it, it was all these other factors, okay, I'm still going to say that letter shouldn't have been sent because half of it was
incorrect.
False. Yeah. So, but I feel like that letter is going to have a pretty good impact on that because legally you have to take the lowest bid. So you have to disqualify the person that is the lowest bid if it's apples to apples, right? So, yeah, I don't know. There's just too many coincidences that all point to, hey, this isn't right. And then Jessica Stanley messaged me because we had talked about the bond opening permit, and she's like, that's crazy. Like, the most I've ever had to pay is like $2,000. And she's like, that was like in Lebanon. I was like, yeah, I've done these before, and the most I've ever had was a $5,000 bond. And that was Hanover, Lebanon, and they're super strict. And so for them to say, oh, $25,000, like, really, it was $30,000 to pave the whole road. And so it's just a lot of.
Here's my take on it, right? So I had some time, like, I'm not on social media, right? Yeah. So some time to think about everything. I mean, I've had time, right? Because we've heard about the letter. We knew that it was sent.
Yeah.
It's not so much as, like, for me, it's not the personnel action of what actions being taken against the person. It's just like it's Connell, right? It's not O'Connell?
Connell, yeah.
Mr. Connell said that you read in the minutes, which is like, hey, something's not right. This is BS. We need to fix it. And then he was quickly shut down and said, no, we got to talk about it behind closed doors. It's a personnel matter. Well, there's 2 different things from my point of view. There's the personnel matter, which, yes, keep it private. We can sit here and pontificate all we want about whatever we think is just, right? But if they did the right thing behind closed doors, or they think that they did, that's on them. But they still owe an answer to the town folks, the citizens, of the action that the letter caused. So I don't care, technically about the person in this case, but it's something was done wrong, and a bad action was taken. What have we done to rectify it, and why aren't we just making it public?
Exactly.
Is it because we're afraid of being a litigious society? If that's the case, then come out and say, hey, I would like to say a lot more, but I'm afraid we'll get sued because even if I do the right thing, it might open us up for, you can't even say that, but there's got to be a way that you can address it. And I guess the problem is whenever, so even if you address it, then you got to look at the second order effect of September 19th or 20, whatever date, right? Like, oh, I'm not prepared to talk about it. Let's talk about it in 2 weeks. Okay, I'll give you that one. Like, okay, like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, you say the exact same thing and you act like it's a surprise to you. And then 2 weeks after that, you say the exact same thing, but then you add sprinkle in some new stuff. Well, then that's where my issue is because now you're not being totally forthright with the town. And the town deserves the correct answers that you can legally provide them. And
don't hide behind a lawyer, though, and say, oh, I can't tell you that. I can't. Bullshit. You're a public employee, and the person that made the decision is a public employee. So how many times have you read in the newspaper, town of such and such fires so-and-so because of this?
Right, but I'm not even necessarily calling for anyone to be fired. I'm calling for someone to say, this is wrong, like Barry did. But Barry was cut off, so there was no finishing to that because they changed it from a bad action or an incorrect action, or whatever you want to call it, into a personnel matter. And from my perspective, they're two different things.
Correct.
Yes, handle the personnel matter.
Right.
And then also do what's right and just by the town because Nikki had read me a couple things underneath the letter because I don't have social media.
Yeah.
But there were a few people that were, like, hey, this isn't right. Like, it definitely appears like there's some targeting. I know, and they were speaking highly of Stevens Company, right? The K.A. Stevens is how it sounded to me.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so now you have public relations on your hand, and I think it could have been avoided, and this is what I talk about being open and honest. And granted, even when I was in the military, like my bosses sometimes would say, hey, you're too honest about your mistakes, but how do you prevent mistakes in the future? By acknowledging the ones you make today so that you don't make them again in the future. So like if you don't acknowledge them, you don't address how we got to this point, then you're bound to keep repeating it. So that was why I never stopped being like, hey, Dad, this was great. However, we could have improved these 3 things. And that's what I would focus on. I wouldn't focus on all the great stuff. It was like, now how can we get these 3 things better? So the long point of the story is I don't care about the personnel action. I care about the action the town takes. If we're sending a letter, and maybe they can't say, and maybe, when Stevens was coming up, and because we looked at when they were talking, it didn't sound like, oh, we provided you a copy of this letter. We provided you with a copy of this because, there's a lot of talk about owning up to things and being responsible and putting things out in public and not talking behind closed doors. Okay, well, here's the same thing. If Stevens has done something wrong, and it's not illegal for you to talk about, which I don't know why it would be, because it should all be open and fair, because you should give somebody the chance to correct it. And I don't get that sense of teamwork. Like it's all a matter of black and white, and and it's only black and white the way that they see it. There's no discussion but that's not what I mean. Like you're changing the words up of what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? They interpret things the way, from my perspective, that's how it appears. So I don't care about the action. I do care because somebody needs to be held to account in some form or fashion, but it is a personal action, so you got to keep it closed doors. And you are okay with however you handled it, but you're still not being open and above board. And if it's because there's a case pending, then say we're being sued because of actions taken on this project. We can't talk about it. And then we can sit here and fire all kinds of bombs at you because you've done something to get sued.
Right.
And usually when someone sues, it's because there's no other course of action that they can take to right the wrongs that have been done to them. But at least in my naive sense of the way I look at lawsuits. So anyway, what are we doing as a town to ensure this doesn't happen again in the future? What are we doing to make sure that it doesn't appear like we're targeting one company where bids are getting rejected, where roads and bridges are getting shut down, permits are being approved for other businesses, but yours isn't getting the same like-minded? Like, it all needs to be open and fair. And if the citizens can judge it, then lay everything out before us and say, all right, well, they're making good decisions on our behalf. And I think we're at the point now to where it doesn't really make sense. It's not all adding up. If there's more to the story, find out what you can say that's more to the story that will clearly show that you have the trust of the town. You're doing what's right, because based on the comments that Nikki was reading off to me at dinner last night, doesn't sound like the people who are at least responding are in agreement with the way that they're treating K.A. Stevens.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. Like, I don't necessarily know. I mean, it's stuff needs to happen, but like own it and take responsibility and address it.
Yeah.
Just like Mr. Connell tried to do, and then he was cut off at the legs, according to the minutes.
So,
from my perspective,
tonight's meeting, 6:30, selectmen meeting. Show up, because Josh will be there tonight, talking open forum because he's still having issues with his waiver for the 6-ton road limit. So
that's what I alluded to.
Yeah.
His is different than the other two companies in town, right?
Right.
Which I get. There's a different road, so I mean,
doesn't matter. Same thing. Like, so Carroll and United get waivers. So if I need to go get material at Carroll, I go, or United. So his waiver is just for his trucks. So if I want to go get material at his pit, I can't, because technically I don't have permission to be on that road because it's overweight. Okay, so once again, you're discriminating against Stevens by saying Carroll and United again, but Stevens can't.
Again, I would say that you couldn't call it that if it was open and fair, in the sense of, hey, these two get it because of this condition. Unfortunately, we can only limit it to, half the volume because of the softness of whatever.
And don't you think, like
why wouldn't they just openly put it out there so that it's easy for everybody to see?
But don't you think, as a select board and as like a town, with the fact that there's been some really questionable things dealing with Stevens,
that you would make everything sure was correct
you would
and
make
above board?
Damn sure that this waiver happened and it was exactly what it needed to be, and that would be like priority one. Make sure there, because
oh yeah, well the first guy inside is like, whatever's going on with Stevens, if there's something that is going on behind closed doors because of whatever reasons, it ends today.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
apparently the board hasn't made that clear enough. So anyways, he'll be there tonight. And also, I hear a lot of people will be there because of the Main Street striping, which will reduce a bunch of parking spots, and which, ironically, that's back on the agenda under informational, probably because they figured there's a lot of...
They're going to move public comment to the end again, or is it permanent?
We'll find out. So it's interesting because I saw a comment on Facebook. Oh, so the state's paving that road. And they said they'd stripe it for the town of Newport, and they'd just do it. But then someone was like, yeah, but I think if we don't stripe it how they want, which is according to the federal new guidelines, they won't pave it. I'm like, it's their road. They have to pave it. So, no, they were just going to pave it. They were just going to do the striping at no charge to the town. So the town's like, oh, okay. But for them to do that, they have to do it to today's standards, which... in one way, it's ridiculous because our town is from the 1800s as far as those buildings and stuff go. So we don't conform to today's standards because it's not like, Lebanon or something like that. Sure, there's all this new stuff. It's not like Newport, right? So I don't know. And they just made a decision like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I can pay it free. Are you going to stripe it for free? Okay, cool. Let's do that.
They discussed it.
They did, but they didn't think, they never said anything like, well, how will this impact our businesses? How, maybe that should have been addressed. And then if you still decided, okay, I guess, but I don't know. It's just, so we'll see what happens. It's silly, but.
Well, I mean, the truth in lending, I think that the interim superintendent liked the reduction of the crosswalks for the safety of the children.
She liked the safety factor of it, yeah. But that's just one factor of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just making sure that no one's like, oh, you're covered, but
no. So the meeting will start at 6:30. Then there's a public hearing in the beginning, and it's basically there's three things on it. One is the insurance of $999,000 bond related to the construction and upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, which is crazy because they already got $16 million in grants for that. So that's not how much that is, but it is what it is. The insurance of $570,800 $572,800 in bonds related to design and the new well in North Newport, and then the 2023-24 budget. So those the public hearing, and then it will go into the normal meeting, which will be open forum, and then, like I said, on the informational, there's the first item is the Main Street striping plan update, the community center, the New Hampshire DOT bridge funding opportunity for Greenwood and Paradise Road. I see that and I'm like, oh, more bridges, huh? That'll be good. Which we need to replace them, but I can just think of, what will happen down the road. And then community power co-op and apple pie fair craft booth for the town. So those are just items on their thing. And there's action items, a few, whatever. So 6:30 selectmen's meeting. If you can't make it, watch it on NCTV or Facebook. But I think a lot of people will be there today. Yeah, I just had someone message me about, it's like, because I disagreed with them on the rec center, because I supported it, and we both did. Thought maybe I didn't agree with different things, and I'm like, or that I love the town manager and how everything's going. I was like, no, just because I disagree with something doesn't mean
not everything is but
I believe in what's right and what's wrong and what's best for Newport and what's not, and
that's typical of what we see going on around all of society.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Local DA going after an ex-president because it's a political.
Hey, we gotta get into that.
All right, well, I'm just saying. I'm just segue. I tied it in.
We're heavily gonna get into that soon.
There's just a lot of things going on that cause me concern.
There's a lot of concerns.
That when President Kennedy tried to warn everybody in the 60s and our parents' generation didn't listen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm blaming my parents' generation, but
we can hang on.
I'm fired up, man.
We'll get into. We'll tell you what.
I'm passionate about that because of my military service and my commitment to all things constitutional republic.
Let me talk about this.
Finish.
One quick thing, and I'll skip over all my other things and go right to that first, which is totally fine. I just want to point out that we both went to the third annual music coffee house at the Opera House.
Oh, it was great,
and the kids did awesome. It was funny. They were almost it was really cool. It was really set up like a little coffee house. She had a little table, a couple chairs around it. They walked around with sweets and crackers and cheese and
coffee, hot chocolate.
Yeah, it was really great. It was kind of funny because not aggressive, but they're almost too persistent because they just kept walking around. And you're like, oh no, I'm good. And they had serious amount of sweets and food, tons of stuff, and it was really good. The last song they did was incredible. I didn't know Bella Alice could sing, and she sang great. And that last song,
that's
awesome.
Without sound, I'm going to sound whatever, but that was the best that I've heard her sing.
That was good. That was really good.
She sang a few other times, but usually it's with other people. But she was the primary.
It was her and
everybody who sang vocals. I even playing individually with just a little help from Mr. Stewart or Stephen. Because they helped on the piano or they're different. But even because some of them were. It was just incredible. It
really was.
To see them shine. And
I told Stephen, I was like, you guys have to do something at graduation because Stephen's talent is insane. They had a 10-minute song him and Bella did, and Stephen wrote it, and Stephen played the piano the whole time, and then she played her bass sax, maybe I think it is. And this kid can play the drums like there's nobody's business. He can play that piano. He can play, I'm going to call it the xylophone, but I don't know. There's probably another name, but similar to that. That has to be hard to play, and he plays the shit out of that.
Well, he played the March of the Bumblebees or whatever.
Yeah,
it was 100 miles per hour.
He played a box. I don't know what you call that box. Slap box.
I left the thing inside on the computer. I brought it home. It's on my other computer.
But it's just incredible. It sucks. Steven's a senior. Bella's a senior. So Jay Page played clarinet. and Mr. Stewart was on the piano. Like besides like one or two little hiccups in it, I was impressed. I was like, wow, like she's really well, played really well the clarinet. And then everyone sang. A couple girls were a little more nervous than others, but I'm like, I saw the potential. Like, hey, what in a couple of years is this going to be like? And
yeah, because there was
awesome.
improvement even from last year with the underclassmen. I mentioned over to you, like, wow, they've gotten better just since last April or May, whenever we saw them perform last. So
it's crazy. We just wanted to go, and
I mean, Andrew Cowett, is that his name? I mean, he belted out a good song.
Adrian, I think it is.
Adrian Cowett.
Aiden Cowett. Yeah, so he sang at the basketball game, but the sound system out there at the gym is horrible, and he sang the same song here.
Oh, it was the same? Like
that's the same song. And
yeah, it didn't sound the same in the gym with the acoustics being off.
He very, very good. He's funny too. Like I know his dad. Like I went to school with those guys, and I went to school with his mom too. But I can tell like when I'm like, yeah, he's a Cowett. Like but he's funny and he's got a sense of humor, and he was like the master of ceremonies, and it was good. Like it was really good, and we're so blessed to have Mr. Stewart as our music
teacher. They had
teacher.
a non-band member, Austin.
Yeah, Austin Merrigan played the guitar and sang, and
I mean, he sounded like what Zeta listens to for those country guys that are sitting in bars in Montana. Like,
and he's like,
very good.
I apologize, I'm sick, or not feeling great, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, he cut it off a little short, but
really,
I thought he sounded great.
Yeah, I was
very impressed with the talent of our.
And he's a senior too, and he's not even in the music program, but he's like, hey, and they're like, okay, cool, let's do it. His mom sings, his grandfather plays the guitar and stuff. Like his family's heavily into music, and it's just good to see. Like there's a lot of talent that comes out of Newport, So, anyways, I want to talk about that because it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It was like an hour and 15 minutes long or something.
That wasn't very long.
No, it wasn't too long, and Adelina was good up to like the last two songs. Really, she got a little antsy, which. But
it was like the Sugar Rush and the Sugar Crash.
Oh my God! Because every time they come by and they're like, "Oh, you want sweets?" She's like, "Okay," and she just grabs stuff. Finally, she's like, "No more, no more." And then it was cute at the end. Same kid who kept trying to push this stuff on us. He's like, to Adelina, puts a tray out and she shakes her head no, and I'm like, very good. Like she knew. Mom and Dad said no more, and this is like no more after how many years I've had. So yeah, that was cool.
I appreciate Mr. Stewart, and
very lucky to have him. We really are. He's an amazing talent to have in Newport, and
the seniors last year spoke highly of him, and even Friday night, this batch of seniors.
He's always dressed up in a suit, like
he's professional. Comes across as professional, and he is dedicated to these kids, and
it's great.
Gets out there and sings with them, plays with them.
Yep. Didn't have the sheet of music for the last song, but obviously he knew it. I asked Bella because there's a spot where she's like, wait, we're supposed to sing here? And so I went up to Steven after the thing and make sure he knew like we were there because it's important. Like he understood, like we were there to support it. And then I went to Bella and I was like, hey, really great job. And I was like,
you didn't do what I did, which was as soon as it was over, turn around and walk out.
Nah. And I said to
I should have went around and
Bella, I said, did Mr. Stewart mess that little part up? She says, no, what happened was I was actually supposed to sing at that spot, but we were missing a saxophone player, which kind of messed it up. And I was like, honestly,
gives her like her cue to belt or something.
And I was like, honestly, if you didn't look over at Mr. Stewart, I don't think I would have known. And she did awesome because as soon as it was the spot, like boom, jump right back in, and because that's what happens. Like when you're doing live performances, you got to roll with it because things happen. Like mics don't work, something stupid will happen, and rolling with it is part of it. And no, they did awesome. And that, like I said, that last song was incredible. I could listen to something like that all day. Like that was good. And so a lot of talent that coming up through Newport, and it's going to get better. There was 6 kids that sang, probably 7.
Oh yeah. Didn't mention, I think Todd Fratzel's daughter sang.
Yeah, Reagan sang. She sang really well. Ava Hodge sang. I think it's Ava.
Erica,
which is the redheaded girl. She sang. Noelle sang, which I was impressed with Noelle. Like I think another year, so like she's going to even be better. and nerves are huge. Nerves are huge, and I mean, I hate public speaking. So to be that young, and get up, and it's incredible. And the lights are kind of up, so it's not like sometimes on the performances you can't see past like the first row because it's so bright. No, this was like lights are. You can see everything going on.
It was like a coffee shop.
Yeah. So great job.
Very impressed. Appreciate them doing that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Good, clean entertainment on a Friday night in Newport. Can't ask for much more.
No, it was awesome.
And it was donations, so it only cost $5.
Yeah.
I felt like I should have left more after I realized.
I gave him 10 because you didn't technically have to pay it or anything, but I was like, oh no, it's a donation. And I'm sure it's for the music program, but shout out to all the parents and the people that helped put that on and made food and all that, because there was a lot of that going. Like there was a lot of food and stuff. So I think those kids did an awesome job, and we'll definitely mention it. On Thursday at our meeting. Shout out to them, and I'm sure Stephen will mention it. But all right, so let's get into the big story of the day outside of Newport. It's interesting. So I have Twitter now because I set up an account for the show. I've never had Twitter before that, just because I don't know.
But Twitter is one of those ones where it's like it's not real, but they influence a lot of public opinion.
Yeah, it's like Facebook's pictures and
for the most part.
Yeah, connecting with family, and I mean it's just a lot of political stuff too. But Twitter's a little different. So, anyways, so I got it through the show, and so I went on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday I think it was, and I was like, "The hell is this?" And it's all over Twitter, huge. And then you go on Facebook, it's and even right now it's not. So supposedly, Trump has said that they're a New York DA who they're indicting him and plans of arresting him Tuesday for supposedly paying off Stormy Daniels. Although the odd thing about the whole situation is when he sued her for defamation, he won that lawsuit and she had to pay him $300,000, which she refused to pay and said I'd go to jail first. And now she's actually in jail, and I don't know if it's related or not, but so it's interesting. So this is just another ploy by the wackadoos in our government on the left that don't want to face Trump. So now it's just make up some thing and charge him with something where Bill Clinton paid off Paula Jones with $850,000. And
I'm not justifying.
No, but this whole two-tier justice system depends who you are. What's funny because...
Well, it's funny because you would think that if you've ever looked on Biden laptop, you can look it up on Marco Polo, and even if 10 out of the 452 things are real, let's just say it's just, which they've kind of verified it, allegedly, right? So if only 10 out of the 400 and something crimes committed are real, something should happen.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy, that's what bothers me about anything, because I hate it most when I'm a hypocrite, but that's why I'll admit when I'm wrong if someone calls me on it. It's because if I'm wrong, I want to be better in the future. What good is it if you don't learn from mistakes? And so I don't know if it's because I was a younger sibling, whatever, but I observe and I realize if I do A, B is likely to happen, right? It's you can just start observing things and realize, oh, here are the consequences of this action or not taking this action. So anyway,
So it's funny because so Trump basically said that.
But I think that they're distracting us from everything, right? So this is another thing because it's a crisis after a crisis after a crisis. So you have, where's the client list that
it's not going to come out.
Somebody allegedly committed suicide over in prison and the other one's in 20 years. Where's the client list?
65 years.
Is it? Did she get 65? Maybe she'll only do 20. I don't know. Well, I don't know where I got the 20, but.
And if you were paying attention this past week, one of the House committees has verified that China has given 4 of Biden's family members a crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
And so basically we're now at the point where they have proof of China owning Joe Biden, and now we need to bury it with something bigger. So, hey, let's
arrest Trump,
Trump for some bogus misdemeanor or whatever. And the funny thing is that the Secret Service said to the FBI and the court and everything, like, just so you know, we will not leave his side. We will be there. We will tell you if we're going to allow you to put handcuffs on him. Like, so it's funny. It's like you might think he's just some regular client, and you're going to put him in a cell. And like the Secret Service said, we will not be leaving his side, which could get really interesting because, you know, they think they're all big and bad, and the Secret Service has one job. That's protect that president or ex-president, and it could get real interesting.
Yeah, to me, it's just one crisis after another one in this country.
It's a joke.
And it's all like, so what's going on in Palestine, Ohio? Are they taking care of anything? Is it?
Oh no!
Is it exaggerated? Are there really dead animals?
Okay, let's do this.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all the things.
Cancer-causing chemicals found in East Palestine soil as high as hundreds of times greater than past EPA safety recommendations. And then someone took some water from East Palestine, brought the old Pete Buttigieg, and said, "Hey, you just said it's all safe to drink the water. Here's water from East Palestine. Drink it on this, video, so we can show everyone that it's safe, right?" And he called the cops on him. Of course he did, because it's.
Yeah, they'll charge them with threatening to poison them. And they're like, "But it's just water." Good when they test it and they find
it's fine.
But yeah. Oh, man, there's so many things going on. It's hard to keep.
They've totally
focus.
Weaponized the government against political enemies. This is no longer America. This is a banana republic, third world country.
Our Constitution's not being followed on any scale of the matter. If you're telling yourself that it is, and then you're living in a delusion. Like, it doesn't matter what party you're in. This should offend you on many levels, like everything that's going on. Because
even if you hate Donald Trump, you should be terrified about what's happening. Because basically, if you cross your government, they will prosecute you. They will persecute you until the end of time on anything to shut you up. That should scare you, because that is completely against the Constitution, completely against what our country stands for.
Yeah. If anybody has any remembrance of what this country was founded on, it was like life, liberty, and property. Then they changed it to pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well,
they also just lie things. So this thing, 1 in 5 Americans support a national divorce, which isn't a breaking all the countries up. Like national divorce, they're meaning like, you know what, maybe states need to have all the power, which, wait, that's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it's actually designed.
Majority not optimistic about the country's democracy. Okay, I want to point this out. We are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy. Everything is off the Constitution. Democracy is mob rule. We can just go vote to do whatever we want. And if the majority thinks that's what we're going to do, then that's what we do. That's not what we do in this country. Educate yourself. We're a constitutional republic. We vote, which is democracy's vote. But that's the only thing that's common there.
Yeah, because we divide it up so that you don't get tyranny of the majority. Otherwise, New York, Houston, L.A., Dallas, Chicago, all these cities, a few counties decide the entire trajectory of our country. But if they get rid of the Electoral College, that's what will happen. And they try to make it sound like the Electoral College is rigged to prevent democracy, which it is. Like,
it's only
democracy is mob rule.
It's only rigged when liberals lose.
Democracy would be 50 people showing up and wanting their voice heard, and because they have the majority, they force you to accept it's not how America was designed. The United States of America.
Here's the cautionary thing. And of course, there's already been threats from people on the left, like, you better not protest. And
so one guy that ran for president at one point said he would pay $1 million for people to go attack Trump supporters with bats. Like, he actually put that out on Twitter.
See, that should get him arrested and charged.
Well, everybody's like, hello, like, this is like
you mean that tolerant, loving left? Yeah, that's funny.
Castro.
Yeah. So
Castro, I think is his name.
Here's the thing. Okay, so many high-powered people in the government have threatened conservatives or anybody. Doesn't matter what party you're in.
Maxine Waters is threatened.
Yes. So don't protest,
all
even
Republicans.
Though you're protected in the Constitution. Let's not forget, these Antifa people that protested and burnt cities down 3 summers ago.
See, that's what bothers me about the hypocrisy.
Yeah. Only
'Cause
they can.
You can watch January 6th, and yes, people stepped out of the ropes and
How many
whatever
feds?
else.
How many feds?
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like.
Yeah.
But
A
if you
couple
watch did you see the newest tape where they lied about the timeline? So they didn't attack the Capitol when Trump said or tweeted something. It was 2 minutes before when they shot tear gas into the cops.
Yeah,
So cops fired tear gas into cops, made the cops retreat back for air. Then everybody pushed forward.
A whole setup. And so that's the thing.
Allegedly. I mean, you can watch it with your own eyes.
Whole setup.
I mean,
you
don't believe your lying eyes and ears.
And this is what people are saying to...
Only the official story of their government officials.
So, but people are saying, be careful if you go out and protest because this is what will happen. The feds will send in a bunch of Antifa people dressed in Trump, just like January 6th, to try to cause violence. So that way they can label all of us as domestic terrorists.
That's not just Antifa, right? Because I don't think Ray Epps was an Antifa guy.
No, he was a Fed.
Well, he was definitely an informant or
Fed employee. He's paid. So, it's just crazy.
and the audacity of people to be like, you guys are wackadoo conspiracies. Like, watch it. Just watch it.
There's this guy on Twitter.
Turn Tucker's volume down and just watch and tell me that what you're seeing is what was described as you were watching it live on the news, because it's not.
There was a guy on Twitter, and then I had to, like, block him. I don't follow him. I don't know how he comes up, but so I blocked him because I couldn't deal with it anymore. But he's like, oh, it's funny because, you know, you MAGA people and protest and all that, and I'm pretty sure, you know, you 0 to 300 or whatever the hell it was, and then it was, you know, I'm pretty sure the National Guard, you know, could take you easily or whatever. And then some guy goes, well, if you just took registered hunters alone, that's 18 million. The National Guard has 433,000. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very hard. You know, so basically this political person or whatever threatening conservatives, if you protest or whatever, you know, the National Guard will, you know, eliminate you. And I'm like, okay.
Well, there's precedent that shows that, I mean, our government will turn on its own people.
Sure.
All you got to do is look up historical facts, man.
But if
it's happened even to our own veterans after not getting their benefits. Yeah. They didn't say, oh, we owe you these benefits. They opened fire on them in Washington, D.C. I mean, that's true.
Yeah. So what I find funny is, okay, but you realize the National Guard is made up of men, women, children, you know, people that, like, okay, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's son, that one's mom, dad, whatever. So I got to think at least half of those would be like, yeah, I don't think so. Because first of all, you take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. You don't take the oath to the President of the United States, it's the Constitution. And like you said many times, if it's immoral, unethical, illegal,
you don't have
you deny those orders and be like, yeah, I don't think so. So, I don't know. It's getting pretty scary. But at the same time, as this is happening, you really need to look around you and say, what is happening right now that they're trying to distract us from? Is it the whole thing with Biden and all these, you know, illegal stuff they're finding? Or is it something different? Or, you know, what exactly is it? And Musk is like, dude, if you arrest him, you pretty much just guarantee he wins the president, like 100%. And a lot of left people are saying the same thing, like, you realize if you arrest him, you're just going to make him stronger.
Yeah, because they've projected for the last 5 years everything that they've obviously. And again, I'm not defending Donald Trump because he ran in the crowds. I know that there's divergent views on was he friends with Epstein or did he testify against them? Right? Like there's two narratives there. There's one half of the country that believes that he is just as connected as everybody else. There's another half that believes that he actually kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out what he was doing. He made references to it. But then you look and you see like 15, 20 pictures of him, which other people have said, like Elon was like, no, she came up trying to get a picture with me, you know, like, so who knows what the truth is. But the only way you can find out the truth is for the U.S. government to say, this is what we have. Right. All these people are getting indicted or arrested so we can find out exactly what their relationship was and why they were, where they were in relation to what we know about human trafficking. No, it doesn't have to be child trafficking, human trafficking.
Yeah.
That's all it would take. They can't do that, though, because a lot of them are on the list, allegedly. Probably. Like, now it's like a probable. Like, if they're not releasing it, then that means that they think that it will destabilize the government or whatever. Like, but if that's the case, why would they just put all the Hollywood people? Like, just throw them out to the wolves. Like, set the precedent.
Donors.
Yeah.
That's how they get elected.
Well, that's true.
It's all about it. Like bailing out that bank. You know, that gave, 70-something million to Black Lives Matter and all those different things. And it's just a payback. Oh, we got to bail this bank out. So, because, our donors come from this area. So it's just more political corruption. It's unbelievable.
World War I veterans were open to fire on. So if you think that our, police and our troops and everything here's what I would say. In the U.S. Army, anyway, we, on Constitution Day, handed out pamphlets and gave a class on the Constitution. I would say that if you are in the military and you are loyal to a political party and not to the Constitution, you're making a mistake. The loyalty is to the Constitution and to your soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen that work for you, with you, and around you, and the people, right? So, like,
and what's funny though?
You have the ability and the authority to deny orders that are illegal. Like, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. But what I find funny is, okay, everyone in the U.S. services right now in any branch, every time they get an opportunity, Democrats want to cut your budget. I mean, there was a story out, and I haven't verified it yet, but basically the U.S. Navy is going to downsize to fight climate change. So we're going to downsize the size of our Navy because of climate change. Like,
I could see downsizing the personnel side to fight climate change because it's just an excuse because you're going to go to all drone equipment. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you ain't going to go to drone ships.
Yeah, you can.
They won't, though.
But what I'm saying, though, is...
What do you think those bad boys cost?
I don't know. You think we don't have some? I would venture to guess that we do.
But you know how easy it would be to take a drone ship out? All you need is an EMP, and boom, that's done. That's junk.
But that's all you need to take out a ship that 800
that's
people
true.
on it.
That's true. Everything's electrical now, so... Like, you don't even need nuclear weapons. You don't need nuclear weapons.
Wow. Even Mitchell, President Hoover, Douglas MacArthur, Eisenhower, and Patton were all there when they were taking on the veterans at the Capitol. It was wrong for the Army's highest-ranking officer to lead an action against fellow American war veterans. That's what Major Dwight D. Eisenhower, later President of the United States, said.
That even happened because
that's why I'm addressing anybody that might have been.
It's illegal to use U.S. troops on U.S. soil.
No, that's my point. Is Tim, is that we all, like us, well, me, even Generation X, like I was taught, like apple pie, baseball, 4th of July. Wave our flags, like a Michael Bay movie, slow motion, flag burning, like that's all about America.
Yeah, but since Obama, it's all hate America, this is a shithole country, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Well, Hollywood has changed, to meet the global market, right? So now they don't make movies that are pro-U.S., they make it that's pro-world, that we all work together and diversity is our strength. And, well, I'm sure there's good to having diversity of thought, diversity of personal characteristics, not so much, but diversity of intelligence, not even intelligence, diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, and competence in the sense of you have the smartest people. But, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about something that you can't control, like your lifestyle, that you can control, like your lifestyle. You can't control your skin color. No. But they're making things now to where they obviously don't care about competence. They care about other things.
It's just a plan to destroy everything.
Right. Well, if you don't hire competent people,
right,
everything is going to fail. Infrastructure will fail. The water systems will start failing. The train tracks will start freaking collapsing. Excuse me.
Because we're not putting money in those things. because
I'm just telling you, though, this was only 100 years ago, less than, our own military took on its own veterans because they wanted what was rightfully theirs, which was, to be compensated for their service in World War I, what they were promised.
So here's the thing that's like embarrassing almost in a way too. Have you seen what's happening in France?
Yeah.
So if you don't know, France is protesting heavily, and it's getting even worse because they're going to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64, and obviously it's a big thing for France. And it's funny because like you think of, for me anyways, and this will sound bad, but I don't care. You think of French people, you don't think of like, you think Americans, you think strength and everything. You think French, you don't get that vibe. Like French are feminine more, like what I'm saying, which is fine. And if you're French heritage, I'm not trying to offend you, but they're over there protesting, like violently protesting for a 2 freaking year age, to retire 2 years later, and our whole country's being torn apart, and we're just sitting here like, oh yeah, all right, well, next time we vote, it'll probably be better because,
voting is fair. Like a lot of people forget, or maybe they didn't learn, but the reason why we won the revolution was the help of the French.
That's true.
So I mean, like, as much as
you just told
everybody likes,
shot down
as much as everybody likes
dumbass.
as much as everybody likes to shit on the French because they're kind of douchey, right? Like, I mean, they're just portrayed as horrible, snooty people or whatever. But I haven't forgotten the fact that they helped us defeat the British initially, and now I think the British crown crept back in somewhere along the way and has influenced our, because we have Five Eyes, which is the 5 countries that all share data. Like, there's just a whole lot of stuff. And I'll just remind everybody that the Constitution clearly lays out the way our system of government is supposed to work. And I would just like to remind all my fellow retirees and the other soldiers that the oath is to the Constitution and legal orders of the president and the officers appointed over you.
But see, the nice thing with veterans, ones that have served and are no longer in, guarantee they've been screwed by the government, so they're not going to be like taking this out of the government. They're going to be like, oh yeah, really? Because every time I go to the VA, you're like telling me it's going to cost me more money, or you refuse to cover that. You know what I'm saying? So like veterans already have a chip on their shoulder with the government. Sure, in service members.
Not that I have a chip, but it's
no, but
like you can't forget.
See, the promises aren't being kept.
Oh, yeah, the promises aren't being kept.
So
from medical care all the way down to attacking our own World War I vets that wanted their payments before they died because they had spread out their certificates of whatever, and most of them were paid later on, and they're like, we're not going to live that long. Like, we want it now, and so instead of addressing it and fixing it or correcting it or having a conversation, they opened fire.
And what people need to realize, like, even if you hate Trump, you're like, oh, Trump's an asshole, who cares, throw him, whatever. Here's the thing. Okay, great, whatever. Trump's going to, whatever. The point is, if they'll do it to him, anyone that crosses him, they'll go after. And he's a hell of a lot harder target to take down than you and me. So if you're really sitting back and you're like, oh, I don't care. I'm a Democrat and I don't care. And blah,
Trump's
blah, blah.
a horrible person.
Right.
Might be. Probably is.
Yeah, okay. Dude's an asshole and whatever. Okay. But here's the thing. They're going after him because he stands in their way. If he just went back to doing real estate and stuff, they wouldn't give a shit what he does. They didn't care before. They were all friends with him. The Clintons were at his wedding. Like, I literally just watched 4 shows on Trump. And as soon as he got elected, it didn't, have anything after that. Like, yeah, he honestly started out like in the 70s. Like, he's actually a pretty cool, decent person. But then you can see his ego build and build and build and build. Which I get. It's hard to stay grounded when you go after big targets and you take them out. And this dude's been living like on the edge his whole life. Like, I didn't realize he built the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. And, of course, went bankrupt. So there's lots of things with his business dealings that You know, you could
his
say
college that has his name, that had his name on it, was kind of shady.
They're not.
Was
Yeah,
shady.
a lot of shady stuff.
I acknowledge that.
Yeah, but when it comes to he was president of the United States, I really don't give a shit because he was there. And he's like, America first. We're going to America.
The thing that he did was he pulled the wool off everybody's eyes. The fleecing.
Yeah.
The fleecing is now visible, and I think that's why the establishment's angry at him.
Yeah, because they
were all friends, and then he's like, "Yeah, I don't pay taxes because of all these loopholes that all you people put into it." So I don't pay taxes, and it's your fault that I don't pay taxes, Congressman or Congresswoman.
And they know if he gets back in there, he's going to rip the Band-Aid off completely.
Do you think he would?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he gets back in there, he's going to change lots of things.
I don't know.
I hope so.
I hope so too, but there's things that he could have changed. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was.
One comment was made, and I agree with this, and I was like, I didn't think about that, but there's still people from January 6th in jail.
Yeah.
And he's never said a damn word.
Well, he has lately.
Lately? Where were you 2 years ago, man?
Well, yeah, when he was pardoning all kinds of actors. That's the kind of stuff that makes me not trust him.
Or dumping money into here's $100,000 or whatever to fight there, something.
Well, some of that probably has to be because they're trying to get him with this whole committee, right?
Exactly. So if he helps him out, then it's look, he's bailing out his people.
Yeah, he totally encouraged this insurrection, which now that's pretty clear that it was a protest gone awry. It wasn't an insurrection.
Those morons on that committee never watched any of the freaking video. They admitted it.
Why would they?
That's like a judge. I didn't see any of the evidence. I just decided to do this.
This is what I talk about all the time, which is take a break. On the school board, if you don't have all the information, then someone should be like, well, how about we push it until the next meeting so that you can get all the information, and let's have a full conversation about it. No, but
I know where you're going with that.
No. No, but those are the kinds of things that happen, but you have to acknowledge it and address it. You don't just ignore it and then, because that's what makes it worse, because it looks like you're hiding something. You have to say.
It does kind of look like you're hiding something. Starting to wonder, is something being hidden?
I don't know.
That's why I got to wait till April?
No. But you know what I'm saying? That's that frustrates me is that, I want to believe, in life, liberty, apple pie, baseball, and everything's great. But then you see all kinds of things from the local level all the way up to the top that just need to be fixed, right? There's so many little things that are occurring, and I think it's because all of us gave up our authority and we just implicitly trust people. We turn on the news and we trust this guy or gal that says that they're this, that, or the other, but have we looked up their credentials? Have we looked up to see how many times they've been fired? Have we looked up to see if this reporter was caught on Zoom with his clothes off, touching himself inappropriately, and yet he's still pontificating to people? Because that happened. You know that, right?
Yeah.
They kept him on, and he's still could you imagine being an employee working for that company, knowing that 2 weeks ago, or however long they suspended him, he was masturbating in front of you on Zoom? He couldn't wait until he was off the meeting.
How many people are fired from CNN for child trafficking or something?
A few of them. There's
something. There's
a couple. But you know what I'm saying? And so if you just open your eyes and you start asking yourself questions, and on both sides, that's why I'm an independent, because it's and it's infected all of us, because you disagree on one thing and then you're like, oh, we don't agree on anything. It's no, we supported the community center. Yes, I hate taxes more than any other person probably listening to this show. They offend me more and more every day that I look and pay attention to them.
Let's sum it up this way, okay?
But you know what I mean? Just because we disagree on that doesn't mean we disagree on everything.
Yeah.
Because we thought the kids need somewhere better, cleaner, safer, more bathrooms. Welcome to the 21st century, because that thing.
It's real simple. 100-year-old.
You
build a rec center. You get a lot of kids in there. keeps them off the street.
Hopefully.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Keeps them off the street, keeps them out of trouble. So now if you don't have the rec center and they're on the street and they get in trouble, and then a percentage of them get hooked on drugs, you're going to pay for it either way. So are you going to pay for it now and have a positive outcome, or are you going to pay for it later and have a negative outcome when they're hooked on drugs, they start robbing, like all these
Your
things.
homeowner's insurance goes up, your car insurance goes up.
I mean, just on What's Up Newport over the weekend on Summer and Winter Street, I believe it was, like, there was a bunch of cars broken into.
Really?
Yeah. My guess is someone, total guess, but someone probably that is hooked on drugs that needs money to buy drugs, searching the cars. Because usually kids, if you're just going to be some dumbass, you're not going to break into cars. Like you.
So they actually broke in. They weren't just going and looking for open doors.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's why.
It was
you get
warning
on to me
neighbors,
all the
hey.
time because I locked my car door, and you're like, really? I'm like, allegedly, before I worked at the elementary school, there was somebody breaking into cars in the school parking lot.
Yeah. No, it's.
So, you know what I mean? So once I found that out, because I left my, it's a Jeep. Like, if somebody wants to get in, they could cut through the
Right. So I think I can sum up
canvas.
all that we kind of just said in a way. So let's look at it this way, and we can bring her back to Newport and relate, okay? So trusting the government and everything they said, just taking as what they said is that's facts. And the media the same way, like you watch CNN, you watch any of them, and it's like, yeah, this happened, okay? That would be like everybody saying, oh yeah, Stevens didn't get these jobs and everything. Total coincidence because he's just a bad company, and that's why. And we should just trust the process. And no, obviously there's a reason that this happened. Well, then someone like you, me, or other people look into it like, well, why was this letter written that's actually a lie?
Yeah.
Part of it, right?
It's not correct.
So you can't keep just blindly trusting everything you read, see. Check it out for yourself. That's why I put the letter up. Here's the letter. I'm not making this shit up. I got nothing in this fight at all.
There's probably, there is more to it, but something's not adding up properly. Whether it's someone's not being honest publicly towards Stevens, or from what we watched on the video, Stevens hasn't been on. You know what I'm saying? Like somewhere the truth has not been fully revealed. And I'm not talking about punishment for Hunter or anyone else, right? Like, I'm talking about just the situation that we're in because, and I asked my wife last time, I'm like, am I crazy to expect that if I'm going to send a letter saying we no longer, or we want to exclude them from the bid process because of poor workmanship, whatever the excuse is, wouldn't you simultaneously send that to the company so that they know? Like, is that not part of the process, is being open and fair like that? I'm sure someone in government will say, well, no, you can't do that. But, like, you should do that. That is the fair and correct way, because then you give someone the opportunity to defend themselves, right? Due process. That's the whole point, that's what's missing here, is that it's the due process, at least as it's been briefed at the meetings as I've understood them, is that all of this is happening to Stevens, but yet there's no one that can account for it because stories change and that shouldn't have been sent, but it's still true or partially true. Well, okay.
I just thought of something.
But you know what I mean? Like, something's not right. Just put it all out there.
Listen, I just thought of something. I'm sorry, you were going off good there, but I thought of something. I just have to say it. Tonight's meeting, I should bring some flip-flops. Connor does a lot of flip-flopping. It was the bridge. It was the road. No, it was this. It was that. Anyways, so.
But, that's why you ask questions because.
And that's why the bid process is supposed to be you take the lowest bidder, and that's how the lowest qualified bidder. Because then it's not picking favorites. It's none of this. It's not, well, look at the bids and see,
Right. But there is a process to where if you want to exclude somebody. But I don't understand how you could exclude them and not tell them that you're going to exclude them.
And you have to have, it's
right,
not as simple as
you would
that.
think you'd have to be open about it and say, hey, Stevens, you did poorly on this job. We had 38 complaints about whatever. So we're putting you on a 1-year hiatus to get better, whatever, like improve your processes, but we're asking the state not to hold us to accepting your bids because we don't like the way that you're doing X, Y, and Z. Like, because even if you're wrong, then at least you give Stevens a chance to defend themselves and say, then you take, like, but it should all be in the public court of opinion, which is, what happened with Jenna and them going and apologizing. We were trying to make improvements for our employees, whatever, and then she was scolded. She was talked down to, and she was, in my mind, totally unacceptable reaction for the way that she talked and said, yeah, we were wrong. We were trying to do something right, and they're honed in on something because that's convenient for them. They keep saying you're breaking the lease. It's like, well, we're trying to improve our property that we share as a town. Like whatever. Like, to me, I see it obviously from this side, and I try to see it from the other. But like when you have the chairwoman go and acknowledge and say, hey, we did it the wrong way. I'm sorry. Let's make it right. A citizen stood up and said, it sounds like they're trying to do the right thing. Why don't we start over because it's all of our money and it's all of our property and everything else. And then it was not like, well, it was like she was talked down to.
Well, that would affect the epiphany.
But like there was nothing, something that was meant to make our employees better that we discussed in private turned into well, now we can't call them. That's what really bothers me about the whole thing is the way that Jenna was talked to and talked down to when everything that they were accusing her of, they could have and should have done. If they're going to accuse her of it, then they should have said, hey, we called you up and tried to talk to you on October 11th when we heard the concerns of your employee. But no, they said you're bitching about it at the whatever. Like, no. He is a supervisor who has employees that work for him, and he's conveying to us the risk to his department for either resources or personnel matters. And you hear that as bitching, and then you don't pick up the phone on your end and call, and then you're going to besmirch Jenna for not picking up the phone and calling you, and you did the same thing. Like, is that lost on everybody? Am I the only one that sees that? Like, there were mistakes made. Mr. Minich saw it and was like, hey, it looks like we got a peace offering here. They're acknowledging that they were wrong somewhere along. And you know what I'm saying? Like, he saw it clearly as it was. And instead of working together as a team and realizing, oh, man, we're getting way off course as public servants, we need to come back together, it was further the wedge. That's how I perceive that whole meeting going down, and that's what bothers me, Tim, is we're all public servants for the town when it comes to that. You and I don't represent, we can't speak on behalf of the board. We can only speak on behalf of ourselves unless the board takes a vote on something. And that's the way my perception of it is as a public servant in this town is we made a mistake, they acknowledged it, and then we acknowledged it, and instead of trying to work together, it was, well, now we're going to punish you for doing this. So you're going to make a point on us when, we realized that two people, it wasn't just Jenna, by the way, the interim superintendent did the same thing, did a mea culpa, and it wasn't like a conversation. You can hear it in their voice. Listen to it for yourself. Like that one, I would say, don't read the minutes. Listen to the tone of the Board of Selectmen's voices as they're talking to Jenna and the interim superintendent. It wasn't matter of factly, it was sneering. The intonation was not a peaceful reconciliatory. It was, oh no, we're going to punish you now because you were going to break the lease. Well, no, we were going to try to make improvements. Like
a lease that they probably can't even find.
Yeah, I wonder where that document is.
It probably doesn't exist. I'm sure it doesn't exist. It was a handshake. It was just like, hey, whatever.
Back when handshakes meant something, when your word meant something. I mean, there are other countries where handshake means more than a contract. You try to give somebody a contract, and they're like, you're a snake in the, whatever.
Grass?
Yes, thank you. I almost said weeds, but snake in the grass, snake in the pond.
So this is interesting, okay? I wish I could. I'd like to know more about this, but so I said on the show. I think I told you on Friday. 918 requested but for the last 5 years what we've been spending legal fees. So and I got it back because I asked Paul for something that just happens because I mean legally you can't say no, but he's always great. So if you ever have any financial things you want questions on, just email Paul. Email is the quickest thing. He gets back to you. He's great with that stuff. So, but so out of the general fund in 2022, we spent $276,860.83 on legal fees. In 21, we spent $196,685.37. 2020, $143,267.58. In 19, we spent $71,542.19. In 2018, we spent $275,633.96. Now, he says a majority of these funds over that 5 years is defending a tax abatement case against New London Hospital. So apparently New London Hospital is like, hey, well, we're a charity, so we shouldn't pay taxes, and they're fighting that. And I'm sure it's a huge tax bill, which to me is like complete bullshit because really every hospital there is, even though they're non-profit, yeah, okay, my daughter was there for one night. It was $17,000. And it wasn't like, oh, it was an expensive med or anything. Like, hospitals are the biggest freaking crooks there are. But anyways.
In your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion. Until you need them, of course. You know. Fucking having a heart attack, like, your best friend, please save my life. Don't get me wrong. And that's not a dig towards the people. Because
no, it's the system.
It's the system.
Everything is like the
it's
system has been
the upper people in there, you know. So that's what this one is, okay. But then there's also money taken out of the sewer fund to fight the waste treatment plant, and I guess there was a lawsuit against that. Listen to this one. So 2022 nothing, 21 nothing, 2020 nothing. Now, granted, I'm sure we had to do these things, right? It's not like we were just like, oh, we're just gonna spend all this money and like. There could have been.
You have to. We talk about some infrastructure. You got to improve it,
and that's like a big thing this year is upgrade of the sewer treatment plant. So it could have been one of these things like, yeah, we could have not fought it and got a $10 million fine that we would have had to pay. Okay, so but in 2019, and this come out of the sewer fund. So in 2019, we spent $220,127.96. And that year we also spent that $71,000 and change in the general fund, which, okay, ready for this one? In 2018, we spent $385,421.57 just out of the sewer fund. And then out of the general fund, $275,633.96. So just in 2018, out of our tax dollars, we spent, which, I mean, still your tax dollars, I believe, for the sewer. Yeah, the sewer treatment plant is because if, like, I don't pay sewer fees because I'm not on the sewer. However, when they do repairs to a sewer and we vote, we obviously pay for the sewer treatment plant to be updated, whatever. But so just in 2018, on legal fees in the town of Newport, we spent $661,000 and some change, but $661,000. Now, I'm not going to say like that. I'm not saying it has anything to do with Hunter. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, holy shit, look how much money we spent on lawyer fees. Now, in 19, $71,000, that seems probably a fairly normal year, I would think. Like, you probably spend about that a year because every time they call a lawyer, they charge you. Lawyers are, you
have a retainer.
Exactly.
A retainer and then
they're expensive. But just this year, like last year, we spent $276,000. And now, I don't know if I legally can be like, okay, I want that broken down more. Because I know some of it was the county, which that fight started before Hunter. So I'm not blaming Hunter for that. I'm not saying that Hunter made it easier necessarily to settle it, but I'm not saying he didn't. So I don't know, and it's not. But so when people say, "Hey, we should be looking at how much money we're spending on legal fees because we're constantly getting sued," I would be interested to see and then what's and the town should update the people. Like, okay, you're fighting this lawsuit with New England Hospital. How come I don't know anything about that? And you may say, well, 6 years ago we had mentioned it at this meeting. Okay, well, you're still spending money. Okay, so you really should update people every once in a while. And you don't have to give us details.
Yeah.
Just say, we're suing them because they're not paying taxes. Okay? And if they were to pay taxes like they're supposed to, they would add this much into the budget, which would take it off of me and you. So I don't have an issue. My only issue would be, yeah, they would pay $100,000 a year in taxes, and now you spend $1 million. And, okay, well, because you could get to a point where you spend so much money that it's going to take 20 years just to recover what you spent, let alone then start to actually, But I'm thinking that building's probably worth a lot. And if you consider the taxes in town, like, there's probably a lot of tax money that, And who the hell are they to think that, oh, well, we shouldn't have to pay taxes?
We're a non-profit.
Non-profit. We're charity. Oh, so I can go there for free? That place banned me. I literally cannot go there.
Really?
Because back when I was in my 20s, I got all doctor's bills I didn't pay, and they went to collection. So they discharged me from there, and they will not see me again. I was like, I'll pay you every visit like I do with my other doctor in Concord. Nope, sorry. Now, hospitals can't do that because by law they have to treat you. Thank God, because I'd be toast. But, yeah, so I got that information, and I was just like, wow, that's a lot of money. Like, $276,000. I'm thinking, you could pave my road.
Yeah.
That's complete crap. There's a hole down there that I got the Mini Cooper today, and if you hit that, you probably break the rim right off. But that's acceptable. Or the fact that last week there was several water line breaks all at the same time. It's kind of weird. And then some other issues. And then when I left my zoning board meeting, Jeff Kessler was saying, the main line that runs down Union Road is 100 years old. And I'm like, so why is this not a priority of the town manager to update this stuff? Because he's great at getting these grants. Then why aren't we working on that? Why aren't we and I've said this for years, way before I got involved with this, way before anything, like when I worked and I owned my sewer company, I was like, every time I go to Claremont or they got a street they just updated and they update the sewer and the water. And now I go to Springfield, Vermont, and they did a lot over like all these towns that bounce around to, and they're constantly, every X amount of years, they're doing upgrades. Because if you don't do it that way, you can't afford to just fix everything at once. Newport doesn't do that. Newport just, that line running down Main Street is clay tile pipe that's been there since probably the early 1900s. And there's just all these little spot repairs in it because every time something happens, they fix it over. But why? Like, that should be priority one. Like, our infrastructure in Newport is failing, and we need to update it, and we need to get going because we're 30 years behind. And it's like the CTE. Yeah. Oh, now I need this huge amount of money to fix it. Well, if you put money into it whatever year, wouldn't be a big deal, right? But that's not how they do it. But other towns do. Other towns, because this stuff's expensive. Just like, you're looking at like $26 million by the looks, roughly, to upgrade the sewer wastewater treatment plant. That's a lot of money. Like, a lot of money.
That includes any of the lines or just there at the plant?
I thought Hunter said something about replacing some lines like through the school area or something, but I don't know. Hopefully, because the whole line's old and outdated, and like we had such issues when I was working, like I said, when I had my company right by Heath and Field there before the school, because there was a customer just kept having issues because there was an issue with the town's line there, and the town had taken off and fixing it, but I spent all this time, like, it was just a nightmare. And you have these old pipes, so you get a lot of water infiltration that's coming in that, now when you're taking just regular water and filter, running through, so it just takes the life out of it. It costs money to send out sewer water through to filter it out to become water again. So if it's just rainwater, like, there's a lot of like things. So I get it, or how about Main Street that, like, you see how many vacancies are on Main Street? It's starting to look like Claremont's Pleasant Street, which is kind of their Main Street.
Like, I drive through there and I'm like, man, this building could, if I could get like some type of discount and whatever, I would put in something there, even if it was just like a open 3 days a week or 4 days a week, freaking.
I'd love that ratio. I
barbecue, or do that.
Yeah. But you go past the PD, there's a building that it had a barbershop in it, and then I was like, that building is empty, at least storefront wise. The next building is owned by Heidi and Jeff North, and I think he's like an apartment upstairs, and I mean, he kind of uses it for stuff, but it's empty. I mean, I'm sure he'd run it if he could, right? The old police station, which
used to have the
used to have the distillery. That's for sale. That's empty. There's just so many fronts, and it's like, oh, we're gonna get housing in town, though. Okay, that's great, but what are we doing to protect our main street? And
I'll go straight up conspiracy theorist with the housing. Like I know who's going to end up there. And it's not going to be New Hampshire. What do we call it? New Hampshireites?
New Hampshireites.
It's going to be, I would guess, illegal aliens / migrant workers.
They're not illegal anymore. They're just...
Oh, they're asylum seekers because...
Oh, we're at 192.
They're not going to stand up for their country.
All right, last story. We're running late, but whatever. The beauty of running our own show, we can do whatever the hell we want. Did you see this? An American company outraged after the Mexican military and police seize the Caribbean facility.
No, I did not see that.
Really? I had somewhere. So, where the hell did I have my... Bear with me for a second. I freaking lost something. All right, now I'm going to have to ad-lib. So there's this company, an American company that does, like, something with, like, raw materials. It was Vulcan something. Hang on, I'll just Google it. I'm sorry. I had it, and then it freaking disappeared. Here we go. And there's a video of this, which I won't play. I don't care. But the seizure of an American company's quarry facility in Mexico by the Mexican military and the local state police have sparked outrage among former and current government officials in Mexico, as well as appeals to the Biden administration and Mexico's U.S. ambassador to intervene. According to Vulcan Materials, a Birmingham, Alabama-based company and the largest producer of construction aggregates in the U.S., members of the Mexican Navy, local state police, along with federal investigators, entered the quarry just south of Playa del Carmen.
Playa del Carmen? Or?
I don't know. Sure. Sorry. I don't speak Spanish or read it very well. I'm trying, though. In Mexico's Quintana Roo state in the early morning hours of March 14th. Then they forced the company to allow Cemex, a Mexican company, Mexican-owned materials company, to unload a shipment of cement from a ship in the port. Vulcan previously leased land to and provided offloading of handling services to Cemex at the site, but the agreement expired last December and talks for renegotiation contracts broke down. The company said Cemex completely unloading the forced shipment on Friday. However, the military and police have remained in control of the property and given no indication to give. So basically, they didn't renew a lease with this Mexican company, so the military just went in and seized the place and said, well, they're going to do what they need to do here, and we have no intentions of leaving, or they've given no. So now, and it's funny because I think President Trump had said, that's funny. So you have fentanyl pouring in our borders, killing people. You have human trafficking. You have all the narcos, terrorists. You have all these things that you can't do a damn thing about, yet you're going after an American business. So, crazy. I mean, we all know Mexico is corrupt as they can be, but they wouldn't be as corrupt if it wasn't for the freaking narcos.
Yeah, and it wasn't for our CIA allegedly working in cahoots while they tried to destroy them, whatever their little racket is. I'm just saying, the government is not as kind and giving and as forthright and as peaceful and as altruistic as we thought and hoped that it can be. It might be someday, but all you have to do is look at the 1932, look it up for yourself, and see how MacArthur and the Washington police fired on and removed our veterans that wanted their benefits. I mean, it was defeated in the Senate, whatever, so they stayed there for like another month and a half. And then finally they were like, all right, y'all need to leave. And then just started, because they were all, it was the Great Depression. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, that's MacArthur on one hand, great in war, but he's also great against our own civilians. So,
Yeah. It's sad and all right. But, all right, guys, so show up to the selectmen's meeting tonight, ask questions. I'm sure I'll speak. Sometimes I'll be like, I'll just sit back. But like Bert says he's going to sit back. He usually does all right, but I can't just say, I have to say something. I'm sure. But just show up and ask questions. And if I hear back from this person that I sent the email to earlier about that whole bid thing, like I said, we'll talk about it on the show. Like I told this other person, like, I'll make corrections on the show. There's no fight on one side or another here from me. Like
that's why I'm like, I get the personnel thing. I just want it to be open and forthright.
I don't get it.
And something's not adding up.
Stevens could call me today and be like, hey, Tim, I'd like to sponsor your show. I'd be like, nope. Maybe a couple months from now, you can sponsor my show, but no, because then it looks like I'm defending you or I'm working for you. I don't work for anybody. I'm working for the people of the town and what I think is right and what's wrong. Because that's what...
You're following your instincts and your intuition.
Yeah. Thank you to Doug Ring sponsoring the show. Doug is pretty outspoken about this, and I think is going to run for selectman. But same thing. Nobody tells me what to say, and I say it. I think that's pretty clear to anyone that knows me. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the other episode with. Looks like I've got 192 views, and I still encourage it. If you know people that haven't watched it, watch it because there's a lot of information in there. And I'm supposed to get a bunch more information tonight. And if I don't hear back from the New Hampshire DOT guy on the bridge thing, I'll just send him a 91A request, and I'll say I want all communication between you and the town of Newport. And I'm sure I'll get it because, like, when Bert 91A the county and 91A the state, he got it. No big deal.
Within days.
That's the law, and they know the law. And if there's nothing to hide, then there's no reason to not give it to you. So I think he's still waiting for stuff from the town.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what he said in that last meeting.
Yeah. He said he let a couple of them go because he didn't physically do it in writing, but he's like, there's other ones I did in writing, and I was told, April 1st or something.
Yeah, it was like 57 days or something. Right. He gave the time. That's somewhere in the 40 to 50.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time on Tim and Steve Show.
Artlist.io